Hello, happy lunchtime. Thanks for joining us. Did you know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month? And as it comes to a close, I invited back this panel of my favorite PQ mindset coaches back to the stage. We had our first workshop panel back on May 14th. I already linked that in the chat if you want to go back and catch that later. In that session, we talked about this modern culture of go, 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 achieve, achieve, achieve. Panelists shared profiles of burnout because, believe it or not, you might be in burnout and not even know it. But we're glad you found us today. Liliboo, Linda, and Shelley are going to share tips and tools to help you grow your mental fitness on your way to thriving and not just surviving. Thanks for joining us, and I will be monitoring the chat, so if you have any comments or questions, please put them in there. Our first panelist today that I want to tag in is Linda Galambos. Linda, we all know what we should be doing to take care of our physical health, eat right, move our bodies, and keep up with our routine dentist and medical appointments, and other things, of course. But why is this idea of mental fitness versus health, why is it so ignored?
Well, thanks, Maria, for having me. And that's a really good question. We don't always do what's good for us is kind of the bottom line. The field is emerging and there's increased awareness and education right now. And the whole idea of mental fitness is still evolving. So each of us on the call today is a positive intelligence coach. And we work with clients to teach them how to strengthen the part of their brain that serves them and then to quiet the part of their brain that sabotages them.
Our next panelist is Shelley Winters, and she's an integrative health coach who works with women over 40 to co-create completely personalized actions to embrace each client's biodiversity, bio-individuality, sorry. So that talks about that health piece and that mental health piece and what makes us individuals. Shelley, what are the components of mental health and mental fitness? And how does that impact show up in the workplace and in life?
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate being here today and being able to revisit this conversation. The buzzword that we often hear in the workplace is EQ, or emotional intelligence. When we're burned out, exhausted, and have not strengthened our mental fitness muscle, we can show up we cannot show up nor respond with stress in a positive way. And this leads to emotional burnout, outbursts, poor communications, disintegrating relationships. If you're struggling with any of these things, then focusing on strengthening your mental fitness is going to make a big difference in your life.
Okay. I'm seeing it, but how do we focus on our mental fitness? You know, I'm busy. I don't have time to go find a quiet room to meditate. You know, how do we fit it in? And our third panelist, Liliboo McGovern, supports chronic people pleasers and perfectionists to shift from living out of obligation and guilt to creating a life of purpose, passion, and pleasure. And I'm sure a piece of that is this mental fitness. Liliboo, how do we fit it in?
Hey, Maria, thanks for having me today. And there's good news because you don't have to meditate to get mentally fit. Oh, yay, there I am. And did you know that in as little as 10 seconds, you can switch your brain from survival to thriving? Creative part of your brain. That's a big claim. And if I hadn't experienced for myself, and I know these ladies have too, then I wouldn't be here today. And the Positive Intelligence Program is designed for busy CEOs and professionals to be able to charge up your battery and be able to get through your day with specific tools and strategies that don't take a lot of time.
When I first found my way to the idea of growing mental fitness through the Positive Intelligence Program, what I loved about it was that it met me where I was. in that busy time where I didn't feel like I could possibly fit one more thing in. But by offering these easy to implement 10-second, 2-minute intervals, whatever you can fit in, even something as simple as while you're washing your hands, feel the water. I mean, we all wash our hands throughout the day. Everyone can do this.
You're absolutely right, Maria. Everyone must take a 2-minute break throughout the day, sometime in the day. Even though we are all uniquely different, the research gathered by Positive Intelligence has been put through the process of factor analysis. And this has provided some really powerful information about the choir of voices that hang out in our heads. They cloud our perceptions and influence our actions. And these characters are not you, but they definitely influence your daily experiences. So I see in my clients routine thoughts and actions that negatively affect their productivity and personal relationships within the workplace. Mental fitness is about being able to recognize these patterns, work to slow them, and allow clients to approach life with more clarity and intention. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, it would. And I think I heard someone say once, you can't control your first thought, but you can control the second one and how you react to it. Linda, you talked about the Positive Intelligence Program and how it helps us strengthen the part of our brain that serves us and quiet the part of the brain that sabotages us. How can we learn to change that initial thought in our head to something more positive and figure out how we're self-sabotaging?
Yeah, thanks, Maria. I see a lot of women who fall into a few different struggles because our saboteurs can be really sneaky. And so sometimes we're not aware that we're self-sabotaging. So let me share some stories and see if you can see any of your saboteurs in this, and maybe the audience can see some of their saboteurs in this next little section as we tell stories and talk about them. One of the saboteurs that's very common to many people is the hyperachiever. And I can already hear some of you saying, wait a minute, what's wrong with being a high achiever? Why is that a bad thing? But many of my clients are high achievers. And I might add that I was a high achiever before too. That was one of my biggest challenges. And the hyperachiever is often the one who is the workaholic, the one that's very competitive, the one that is kind of the status seeking, the title, the role of the job and in the company. And so that push of the hyperachiever says that life is about achieving and about producing results, and that our worth is attached to our achievements. So I'm wondering if our audience, is there anyone in our audience, are you pushing yourself to do more? Or maybe you're someone who feels like you're not doing enough. That voice in our head, like Shelley was talking about, that's the one that is pushing you to do more or telling you you're not doing enough. And always being competitive and multitasking and caring about what others think can take its toll on us. And when we are always chasing that finish line or one more goal or one more avenue of being productive, we can't always reach that. And what we really are in is stress and burnout instead of achieving and being productive.
I don't know about you guys. This is blowing my mind because I feel like this is why I am and have reached where I am in my life and in my career. I need my hyperachiever, Linda. But I can see how this quest for this never-ending moving the finish line back can equal self-sabotage.
Yes, exactly. It's moving that finish line. And there's another really common form of self-sabotage, and that's being restless. And I was so relieved when I saw that this was one of my top saboteurs. So many things in my life made sense to me once I understood how the restless saboteur was showing up. So here are some characteristics for those in our audience that might feel like they have the restless saboteur. Are you always looking for the next best thing? Does it seem like the grass is always greener on the other side? It can also show up as just feeling bored with your work environment, even bored with your life. Are you always multitasking? Are you someone who's easily distracted, always moving from one thing to the other? That's kind of like digging 100 wells and never finding water. Or are you somebody who is just really impatient with the here and the now, looking for something in the future? I'm wondering if anyone in our audience can relate to any of those.
I can totally relate all of those. And I'll add a couple more ways that we sabotage ourselves, because I work with people pleasers and perfectionists. And I have those tendencies in myself. It's so easy to recognize these saboteurs in other people when we have them ourselves and we're aware of them. And so this stickler can cause a lot of problems. The stickler says that there is a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And if you don't get it right, you know, your survival mechanisms tell you that you're going to die. So sometimes we get all of this energy around getting things right because it's kicking off our safety and survival brain. And so I was one of those annoying people that was terrified to get it wrong. And for example, in my business, in creating my own webinar, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I spent hours and hours researching, comparing, studying, asking my friends, asking other coaches what works, what doesn't work, going over every last detail. And then after I got it done, it still wasn't done, because then I had to edit it and rewrite it. And it took me about 2 years to get this webinar finished. And it's still not perfect, but it's done. Thank goodness. I'm sure none of you in the audience can identify with this, right? So in the name of keeping you safe and doing it the right way, the stickler has paralyzed you and me, and it costs us a lot of time and energy and probably business revenue. So I just have to ask you in the audience, have you seen this on your team or in yourself? Do you notice that you're stopped in your tracks, unable to make progress? Or have you noticed a coworker getting lost in the weeds, focused on perfection? And all of this leads to push deadlines and a negative domino effect on the results, leading to even more irritation and anxiety.
You know, Lili, mental fitness is about being able to recognize these patterns and stop them. Stop the sabotage and create new thought patterns and keep you moving forward so that you are hitting those benchmarks. It's important to be able to identify the saboteurs. So I want to share with you a description of yet another one. This is the avoider saboteur. And the avoider shows up in the workplace big and bold as procrastination and can bring passive aggressive tendencies along with it. The common thoughts of an avoider are that they don't want to do it because it's just too unpleasant. So push that job away, right? That's what procrastination looks like. Or maybe if I just let it go, it'll take care of itself. Have any of us ever done that, right? I don't want to deal with this right now. It will hurt my coworkers' feelings. So I'm just going to push it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist and go back to maybe it will take care of itself, right? I'd rather not. That's a big go-to, right? I'd rather not. I just don't want to do it right now. If I get into a conflict with someone on my team, I might lose a connection with them. So I found balance right now, so I don't want to mess with any of it. I'm just going to avoid the whole thing. So the impact of this can be a loss of trust with coworkers and worsening situations, as what is hard seldom goes away unless it's addressed. And there's some sort of resolution sought. But the good news is that it's possible to weaken each of these characteristics while still addressing issues with kindness and strong leadership.
Our panelists have shared a few of the different ways that we sabotage, and I popped up a list here, and I'll give you, some time to read it. And as you do, are your saboteurs jumping out at you? Are you seeing yourself in this list? I bet you have a pretty good idea of how you're sabotaging, especially when I put the names right here. But there is a quiz you can take. Come on, who doesn't love a quiz? There's a free quiz you can take, and I will link it up in the comments after this and in the show notes so that you can go and find out exactly what your top 3 saboteurs are. And right now, I'm probably guessing that you want to know how to fix it, right? That's why we were here, how to go from surviving to thriving. Shelley, how do you move your clients from burnout and unhealthy to their ideal vision of emotional health, wellness, and lifestyle in their relationships and all of those things?
Thanks, Maria, for that question, because I'm sure people are curious as to how it can happen. In the workplace, overwhelm and burnout can go unnoticed for a while. It can feel like normal, or this is just what I do. And grit is a common buzzword we hear these days. We want everyone just needs to have a little bit more grit, right? Our days can become so routine and our thinking so rigid that we just don't see anything wrong with it. And as mentioned in the last session, after years of overworking burnout, I found myself there. My mind was constantly sabotaging my potential for both productivity and happiness. This is when I was introduced to coaching and subsequently this operating system. To find your way from being burned out and unhealthy to your ideal version of yourself is a journey, but it's one worth taking. And with each little step that you make, you begin to turn the wheel of change. Bless you. And with the momentum of that wheel of change, it will build with each little thing that you do. And it's not long before you start to see a new you. So I just want to pause for a second and ask a question. And that question is, what do you think is the most powerful verb in the English language? Please share your comments, your thoughts in comments. What's your answer? Again, the question is, what do you think is the most powerful verb in the English language?
All right, let's see. We have achieve. Yeah. Welcome to LinkedIn. Work. Earn. Doing.
Oh, that's a good one.
And thinking.
Thinking. I love those, Maria. Those are great responses. I would like to offer another response that really resonates with me, and that is the word choose. Why? Because being able to choose allows you to use your own agency to create the life that you want.
I love that word choose, Shelley. I was thinking love, but choose is a very powerful word because you can choose to keep following your well-worn, thought-out processes, which is going to lead you to the same behaviors. Or you can choose to strengthen your mental fitness, intercept your saboteurs, and choose a new path.
I love that, Liliboo, choosing a new path. So with this in mind, the first step for my clients as we begin to work together is to start questioning your thoughts. What is causing you pain or negativity? You'll begin to see that your thoughts are not facts. Did you know that?
Yes, Shelley, I love that. Yes, our thoughts are not facts. And that is a part of the process to learn to ask what you're thinking and is that thought true? So the saboteur lies are well-worn pathways in our brain, and they just automatically go down that well-worn pathway. And they to the point that the lies become a fact in our own mind. It just becomes automatic, and we believe that it's the truth. That is why sometimes it takes working with a program or even with a coach to start to rewire those well-worn responses and to start questioning the thoughts that you're having.
I think that's such a great point, Linda, because it's not until somebody like a coach who's listening objectively can reflect back to you what those thoughts are that you're thinking. And as some of you in the audience know, our thoughts manifest as emotions, which drive our actions, and our actions lead to our results. So being able to go back to the beginning and choose the thought that works for you and empowers you, this is essential to creating the results that you desire.
You're speaking true truth to me, Liliboo. In my story, as it began to sink into me that I got to choose my thoughts, it was like a kaboom moment, right? And I embraced having a choice, being able to choose my thoughts. I knew I could choose my actions. I just had never thought that I could choose my thinking. And so I chose to change. And the Positive Intelligence 3-step research-based operating system is one of the most powerful tools that I have encountered. And it works hand in hand with questioning and choosing self-empowering thoughts. It strengthens the part of your brain that serves you while quieting the part of your brain that sabotages you. You've heard us repeat that throughout this program as we've been talking to you. Why? Because it's essential. We need to empower the brain part that works and serves us and quiet the other one. So as a coach, I guide clients through their individual journeys, and along the way, they will discover the source of their pain, discover what they want to change, and why they want it. And together, we assess the areas of your life that may need additional nourishment. When I think of, sometimes when you say nourishment, you'll automatically think of what's for lunch, right? But let me share with you another concept, and that is that relationships, physical activity, health, spirituality, your career, joy, home environment, and social life, these are the primary foods that fuel your mental and physical well-being. Secondarily, you're nourished by the food on your plate, which also impacts your mental and physical health. All of these things contribute to creating your ideal life, but you have to choose. You have to choose to want this balance, and tools and knowledge of how to get them are beneficial and a large part of what coaching is.
Yeah, I love that, Shelley. It is really important to us that you guys leave here today with a taste of what that operating system is that Shelley was describing. So there are 3 steps. There are 3 steps in the operating system. And the first step is to really identify those saboteurs by taking the saboteur quiz. You'll see your most active self-sabotaging patterns, and then you'll be able to expose the lies and the limiting beliefs that go along with them. And I'm sure you're already starting to maybe see some of the damage that our saboteurs can cause. And with practice, you'll learn to recognize these patterns and will begin to intercept them as you try to influence your thinking, your feelings, and your actions so they can no longer fool you into thinking that they're being helpful. And so we call this really intercepting the saboteur. And once you can begin to start intercepting the saboteur, then you can also build what we call self-command. And that is like a muscle that is in your brain. All of this is mental muscle, just like going to the gym and working out. And we build that mental muscle in our brain by doing what we call PQ reps. And these can be 2 minutes or they can be 10 seconds, just like you've heard us saying in this presentation, that these exercises Lili mentioned earlier, they're just short and they're helpful, and it builds your self-command muscle. Each PQ rep only takes a few seconds, and the beauty of it is it can be done with your eyes opened, it can be done with your eyes closed, so you can do them at your desk, you can do them in a meeting, you can even do them while you're driving. So with each PQ rep, you develop greater mastery over your own mind because you are quieting that negative part of the brain, that part that is not serving us. And then you activate the region of your brain that is more positive and that can serve you. And this has been proven, and you can even see that happening on functional MRI studies. So then we move into, once we've quieted those saboteurs and we have learned how to shift, what we want to do is shift into our sage thinking. And the sage perspective is really something that might be hard to grasp in the beginning, but it is really about everything in our life can be converted into a gift or opportunity when we choose to see it through the right lens. So today, as you hear that, you might question, I don't know, that sounds like a pretty big promise. But I can tell you that once you start retraining your brain, it becomes much easier to see the wisdom in this concept. And so if you're immediately finding yourself thinking worse things that have happened in your life or in the world, that's where we talk about that mental fitness muscle. I want to encourage you to start with something smaller as a way of entering into this sage way of thinking. As you try on this perspective, you'll also be invited to use the other 5 powers of the sage, which are empathy and curiosity, joyful creativity, purpose, and clear-headed action. Those are the 5 powers of the sage.
Wow. I have to admit, when I first heard this, I was really overwhelmed. It seemed like a lot, and we just threw a lot of concepts at you. But I promise, it is something that comes second nature with a little bit of practice and guidance from this program, from a coach, or just spending time with it on your own. It's training your brain so that that first immediate reaction isn't so negative and hurtful. It's learning how to see the glass as half full instead of half empty. It's learning to see and celebrate all of your greatness instead of the flaws and mistakes. And all of us on the panel can help you build these tools and help you move forward. All of our links will be in the chat and the show notes afterwards for you to connect. And as well as, this is LinkedIn. Connect with us. Let our network become your network. Lili, can you give the audience a little bit of a sneak peek on how you guide people through moving towards this sage? Because there's a lot going on.
Well, first, I always remind people to take a deep breath in through your nose, all the way down to your belly, and then exhaling twice as long as you inhale, blowing out like you're blowing out the candles on a cake. And this lets our bodies know that we're safe. And then I use the strategies that I learned in positive intelligence. And each one of those saboteurs has specific strategies to help you deal with your weaknesses. And since I'm working with perfectionists and people pleasers, I'm going to give you some strategies about those about the perfectionist. That's who we've been talking about. So the number one thing, and this applies to all the saboteurs actually, the number one strategy is to focus on the strengths side of your sabotaging behavior rather than the weaknesses. And this is the goal of the mental fitness, to be able to keep up the strengths, but not overuse them until they become weaknesses. And the mind is like a compass. It can only focus on one direction at a time. Even when it feels like we're multitasking, we're really doing it really fast. So let's focus on the strengths while using these specific strategies. And for perfectionists, there's 3 strengths that I love to talk about. And perfectionists are also called sticklers. And perfectionists have high ideals and standards, which helps everyone else raise their standards so the quality increases in the work. And a second strength is that they are principled and able to bring organization and order into chaos. And we all need a little order in this chaotic world. And then the third strength of the stickler or the perfectionist is that they are capable of leading themselves and others to live and work based on clear guiding principles. So what you focus on grows. And so let's focus and grow our strengths rather than focusing on the negatives.
You're so right, Lili. Choosing to focus on sage strengths of the stickler, yet learning to use the saboteur intercept muscle when the stickler goes too far, is really the process of staying and working in sage.
Yeah, and another way to stop those saboteurs, interrupt that pattern, is to also look at some of the behaviors for each of the 10 saboteurs. Who wants to hear a specific strategy for the perfectionist? Yes, yay. Okay, so this is a great system that's totally changed my life, and it's called the 2-bucket system. And so just imagine you have 2 buckets. One represents 20% of your tasks, and then one represents 80% of your tasks. Bucket number 1 is where you put the 20% of things where the highest possible quality matters. What's going to have the most impact in your life, or what's going to bring in the most income? That's what's going to go into this bucket. And then everything else goes into bucket number 2. How great is that? Because 80% of most things can be done good enough. Good enough is good enough, and it's done. It's not perfect. It's just done, just like cleaning the toilet or cooking a meal. So I can tell you that 80% of what the stickler wastes time on is trying to make perfect everything and the stuff that belongs in the good enough bucket. So if you don't have time to practice mental fitness, it's because you're using all your time trying to make everything perfect, which is exhausting.
You're so right, Lily. And you know, coaches need coaches. And one of my coaches told me a long time ago that done is better than perfect. That's a mantra. And I love it. For all of you out there, I want you to just pause for just a second and imagine how much mental and emotional energy you could save using this 2-bucket system. Just think about that. And imagine how much better your outcomes would be if you focused your energy on the 20% bucket of things that really matter.
Yes, and how much you can reduce your stress by allowing those 80% items to just get done. No need for perfection.
Yeah. Music to my ears. Yes, let's amplify the strengths of the stickler by using the 2-bucket system to make what matters most the highest quality and get the rest done, because done is better. Just like Shelley says, done is better every time rather than perfect.
Yeah, taking imperfect action is a way to move forward. And for some of you out there, that is going to be a struggle initially because we're so used to thinking we have to do it perfectly. But try it. Try it. I promise you'll find some relief. And then also recognize that mistakes are necessary for growth. Mistakes mean you're learning. So mental fitness allows you to get flexible rather than remain rigid in your thinking, and use imperfection as fertilizer for your growth. I heard a saying recently that applies here. The person said, "I never fail. I win or I learn." How could this mindset change you?
Well, that reminds me of a quote by Tony Robbins, who just defines happiness as progress. He says, the only thing that's going to make you happy long term is knowing that you're making progress. So that mindset of only winning or learning is progress. So let's celebrate every time you make progress. That is another strategy of mental fitness. Every time the stickler or the perfectionist gets something done imperfectly, celebrate it. Give yourself that little dopamine hit. Jump up and down, sing a little tune, or just write yay like I do next to my checklist.
I love that, Liliboo. Yes. And this also ties back to the hyperachiever. What if you took a minute to celebrate and move into that sage versus just continuing to push to the finish line? The brain rewards itself with a hit of dopamine when we stop and celebrate. And that also reinforces this new programming because you'll have positive associations with your actions. And it's these tiny wins along the way, which actually lead to our success.
I love that, Linda. I think sometimes as we push that finish line back, we have such a big focus on what success looks like that we miss the little steps that help us to get there. As we wrap up today, I would like each of you just to take a couple of minutes and close your eyes. If you're sitting at your desk and it's awkward to close your eyes, just look down and just try and take a deep breath, like Lili said. And I want you to imagine how your work environment could change if you were to bring this sage energy into your daily workspace. What does that look like for you? Consider the impact this positive energy can create as its contagious nature reflects to others. Now, I want you to do something kind of special here. I want you to think of yourself 20 years older, looking back at this moment. What would your older, wiser self want you to know right now? What action would they encourage you to take? Ponder that for a second. How would those actions make you feel, and how would it change your work experience today, tomorrow, in the future? Because we're in a limited time experience here today, I'm going to have you open your eyes. But as you leave, maybe go back to that moment and ask these questions to yourself. There are many in the world who will exhaust themselves and wear out their lives searching for happiness outside of themselves. It's our hope that this will not be you. Weakening your saboteurs and strengthening your sage power will enable you to live a more productive life with more positive than negative energy. It'll allow you to feel purpose and peace at work and at home.
Yes, so good, Shelley. So good, Lily. And Maria, thank you so much. This is great, ladies. Yes, our inner happiness and peace rests on us, nothing from that outside world. And coaching with the PQ framework will get you there in both your professional life and your personal life. It's also the perfect program to increase your emotional intelligence and to boost your team performance. And you know what the best part is? You are able to take the tools that you learn and apply them for the rest of your life.
Woohoo! Kudos to you for being brave, showing up to your life, and learning about a new way of operating in the world, and sharing this proven, reliable, repeatable operating system with as many people as possible is our mission. And we hope to use these tools and strategies in your life so that you can enjoy every moment, no matter the conditions, limitations, or circumstances.
Ooh, powerful stuff. We've given you a lot to think about today. I challenge you to pay attention and note when your saboteurs show up today. First step, interceptor muscle, seeing it. Imagine the different paths that you could access by embarking on this positive intelligence journey. And all of us here today are positioned to help you go on that path. And it all starts with that saboteur quiz. Remember, it's free, it's fun, I'll put it in the show notes and in the chat after we are done. Take a moment and do it. And then connect with any of us, all of us, to talk about the results of your quiz. It's free. Why not? You'll walk away with some tips and ideas for how you can integrate mental fitness into your daily life.
Yes, we hope to see you in a strategy session. And remember, your history is not your destiny. And every moment is a new moment to remember your brilliance and rewrite your story.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We're happy to connect. Talk to you soon. Bye.